Hi friends, today I want to answer the question, meditation. What's the use? Like, why do people do this crazy thing where they sit in a quiet room staring at a wall, or, in extreme cases, sit in a cave staring at a wall for 10 years? What could they possibly stand to gain from that? Well, the answer is really three different things that tend to dominate at different periods of the course of one's meditative life. So I want to talk about each of those three things in turns. It's going to be, first off, just mind maintenance. That's number one. Number two is data gathering. So coming to understand how the mind works. That's number two. And then number three is skills development. So actually building up the sorts of skills that you need to intervene in the creation of your mental state and make decisions about your mental state and say, right now, I'm not really feeling a unpleasant, miserable sort of thing. Let's do joyful. Let's do gleeful. Let's do exuberant. Picking the states that you want from moment to moment to moment in order to build yourself an intentional life. So we're going to cover each of those three in turn. But first, I want to just take a quick moment to go on a little side tangent here, which is that I don't actually talk about meditation super often on this channel, even though that's my background. Right? I've been a meditator now for an alarming number of years, 17, which is just about half of my life. Active meditation as a major component of how I engage with the world. 17 years, wow. So it's a big deal for me, but I tend to talk about sort of introspection and this broader umbrella term of all of the ways that we can find out information about how our state of mind gets put together. Because meditation means a lot of things to a lot of people, but a very specific thing that is just one of many practices that give us more information and more ability to influence our experience of the world. So I tend not to push meditation too hard because for a lot of people, meditation is it's a tough hill to climb. And there's a lot that you can do before you get to the point where you're like, yeah, let's get some meditation involved. And you don't even necessarily have to meditate. You don't need to meditate to be a happy human being in the same way that you don't need to use power tools to build a house. It's just a lot easier to such an extent that you kind of wonder, well, why would you go to all the bother? Just use the power tools. And that's how I feel about meditation. You don't have to do it. There are people out there who are building up the skills, that live in great lives, and don't have a formal meditative practice, but golly, it's easier. So I do recommend it. So with that, let's get into what it's all about. What's the point? So the first thing that meditation is useful for is just mind maintenance. Especially when you're first beginning, you're going to be doing something that usually goes under the heading of mindfulness meditation. Really just paying attention to what's going on and existing in a state of sensory privation. Like reducing the total sensory load that your brain is under by choosing a quiet place with a simple visual field, a comfortable body position, and a comfortable temperature. Right? Just giving the minimum of incoming data for your brain to process and seeing what happens. That's mindfulness. That's really all there is to it. And the important thing about this is that most of the benefits of mindfulness meditation are actually free. In that, as long as you plant your butt on the cushion in that comfortable, quiet space, you'll get the benefits. You don't have to do anything. This is number one thing that I find with people who are new to meditative practices is they're sitting there. Am I doing this right? What am I supposed to be doing right now? And then, it becomes unpleasant because they get worked up into this frenzy of concern about whether or not they're doing the right thing. And there really is no right thing to do. When you're first starting, all you're doing is collecting data. All you're doing is just seeing what's happening. And while that's going on, your brain's automatic self-repair processes are going to start to get your mental house in order. because there are actually all sorts of tremendously powerful facilities just built into the brain to keep things running. But a lot of them, because we live in these incredibly sensorily intense environments and we have all sorts of mimetic cognition coming into us and flowing out of us at all times, there's just not the resources for the brain to actually take the time to get everything squared away and back in a sensible working order. So when you reduce the incoming stuff that needs to be processed, eventually enough resources just free up that these processes take place on their own. And they're unconscious processes. So it won't feel necessarily like anything's happening, but you will begin to experience the benefits of that in your life as you have a more robust response to stress, as the amount, just broadly, the experience of stress diminishes, as you find you have more patience, as you find you're better able to focus on the task at hand. All of these sorts of benefits flow naturally from just being in that space with a little bit less incoming sensation. So that's number one. Why to meditate? Because it just lets the brain upkeep itself. It's a bit like stretching or proper nutrition for your body. You know, there are just certain things that you need to do to facilitate the processes by which your body takes care of itself, and for your cognitive dimension of your being, you need to create the window within which those sorts of automatic self-care processes can take place. So that's number one. Number two is simply data collection. So we touched on that a little bit. With mindfulness meditation, all you're doing is just paying attention. What's happening? Yeah, this is happening. Okay, cool. That's it. That's really all you got to do. Just sit there, plant your butt, look at your blank patch of wall. Minimal sound. You know, life is life, so there's going to be some sound, but not quite as intense as the sort of media experiences we're generally immersed in. And a comfortable position, and just see what happens. And a lot of things can happen, and all of them are fine. If your butt is on the cushion, all of it is fine. You are being successful. You're winning at meditation if your butt is there. So as this is going on, just do your best to go be mindful of what's happening, and maybe make a little mental note. Oh, that's interesting. That's an odd experience. So what happens to a lot of people is they become restless. Their body becomes agitated. They start to notice physical sensations more vividly in the lack of sort of external stimulation. All of the sort of kinesthetic sensation, all of the sense of your body's position in space, but also, muscular complaints, something being stretched a little bit too much, or something cramping a little bit, or do you just have a restless leg? All of those things become intensified. The sound of one's own breathing can become more intense. If you're in a very nice low stimulation environment, you might even see a few visual hallucinations. I had a buddy of mine who was set up and he couldn't find a blank stretch wall, so he's just looking at like the side of a comforter, and all of a sudden it had a couple of colors on it, and they started blending together and whatnot. He kind of reported that somewhat feverishly. Oh my God, what is going on here? And it's like, you're fine. It's fine. That's totally normal. In the absence of the usual expected levels of stimulation, the brain will just invent some stuff. It'll just amplify noise in the visual centers. You'll get some hallucinations. Wonderful book, Hallucinations by Oliver Sacks, details all sorts of those sorts of things. So nothing to worry about, but just notice them. Right? Now, for most folks, what is going to be going on is a whole bunch of verbal cognition, a whole lot of thought and feeling that is sort of unconnected from the actual external information coming in at that time. So a lot of abstract cognition, or thinking about how the day is going, or what did Susan mean by that, or what have you. And that in and of itself is really interesting. Maybe take a moment to note sort of if there's a disproportionate amount of cognition going on. I think that a lot of people do have that experience that it's, whoa, I'm sitting here in an environment where really nothing's going on, and inside my mind, a lot is going on. And is that really healthy for the activity of the mind to be so out of balance with the demands being made on it by the environment? My answer is generally no. Which is not to say that one shouldn't have a rich intellectual life, but there's something to be said for when nothing's going on, letting the mind do nothing. Because, as we talked about before, it actually has a lot of stuff that it can be doing under the hood unconsciously with those resources that we usually devote to all sorts of verbal cognition that we've inherited from our culture and from our peers and all of that. So, pay attention to that. See what's happening there. And be mindful of the fact that no matter what happens, just by dint of being there, you are learning, you are growing, you are gaining more and more information about how your mind functions under different circumstances. So that's it. That's number 2. So the third answer to meditation, what's the point, is the application of skills. So it's a domain where you can practice cognitive skills. And this is something that I feel like is really sort of underaddressed in our society, that you can actually get good at using a human brain. You're not, by dint of having done it for your whole life, at all guaranteed to be any good at it. And there really are skills involved. And in particular, there are 2 very important skills. There's one, just the ability to track what is happening in the mind in fine detail. So to be able to see a cognitive process kick off, right, begin loading things out of memory and pulling different pieces of itself into your conscious mind, and then start to run and sort of fork and enact multiple processes and change your state and update your experience of the world, right, from the initial kickoff, a small little process running over here, until it becomes the dominant process that's determining what your state of mind is and how you're experiencing whatever sort of sensory information you have coming in from the world. There's a lead time there. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And most people only experience the end product. They only experience, this is just the world as it is. Which is, no, this is a constructed experience of the world built upon a very scanty foundation of actual externally derived sensory information and a whole lot of loading up of preconceptions and, in many cases, mimetic nonsense about what those sensory inputs mean. So, getting to the point where you can actually see a process kicking off that several moments down the line is going to become foundational to an experience you're going to have of the world, and maybe even exercise a little bit of choice and go, is this a process that I want to kick off right here? Is the fact that I'm working on this problem and it hasn't yielded to my first attempt, is that an opportunity to be frustrated, or is it an opportunity to be exhilarated? Oh, I've met a good challenge. This will be excellent. I'll learn so much, right? That experience doesn't happen if it's, oh, what the heck is going on with... So which experience do you want? If you can't see the moment where either of those 2 things are possible, if you don't have the experience of tracking the fine-grained evolution of the mental state well enough to see that there is a choice point, we could go multiple ways with this, then you have no freedom there. You don't get to make the choice between those 2 things. So, practicing the skill of paying attention and following in a fine-grained way the evolution of states within the mind. When I first I was reading Buddhist scriptures that were pointing at this in a sort of indirect way, and when it first clicked with me, like, oh, they're talking about acting upon an experience that I'm not having. That it's not that I'm missing something here in the text. It's that I'm missing something here in my experience of the universe. I was a little bit taken aback by that. That was a kind of a foreign notion that I could be perceiving the activity of my mind in a clearer way. That I was sort of only catching these very broad strokes, and there's a lot of fine detail available that humans could access. That was a bit of a kind of moment for me. So, if that sounds a little bit like crazy talk to you, totally sympathize with that. But those crazy old Buddhists, they're right. There really is a lot more available than most of us are taking advantage of. So meditation is the place where you learn to do that. And we talked a little bit when we were talking about data gathering, in the very roughest sense, when you first begin and you're first doing mindfulness meditation, you'll start to develop this skill, but just by trying, right? Because for most human beings, this skill is so abysmally poor that literally any effort to understand what's going on in your mind will lead to immediate improvements in it. The second major skill that you're going to practice here is to actually then intervene, to take advantage of this knowledge gained from the improvement in the skill of tracking one's mental state through time, to step in and exert a little influence in how your experience of the world gets built up. So to make that choice between frustration and exhilaration in the moment when you desire some outcome in the world and it is not manifesting. You've tried to intervene in the world out there. Things aren't going exactly as you wanted. Okay. So am I excited to rise to a challenge, or am I frustrated at being stymied? Both of those are possible experiences based upon the information coming into me from the world. There's a choice to be made here. And as we get better and better at tracking the evolution of our mental state, what we discover is there's just a crazy amount of choice available to us. The degrees of freedom in our experience are just manifold. There are so many levers we can be pulling to change the world that we live in by making changes to the way it's constructed. Here. So you get to start practicing that. Now, both of these skills, to practice them in a very overt way, is something that's going to be down the road for most people. 6 months, a year into your meditative career, maybe you're going to start really tinkering with these sorts of things. But for that first 6 months to a year, just having your butt on the cushion is enough. Just understand, don't be too eager to dive into, I've got to get in here and start. Because when you're a novice, you just don't know what you don't know. And you just have to sit your butt there and let enough stuff happen and do that information gathering for long enough to really start having some experiences and bumping up against the sorts of experiences that arise from your natural expansion of these skills just by dint of being there and making an effort. And then you can start to go after them in a more organized way. And someday down the road, I'm going to have some videos on exactly what those meditation practices look like. But for now, these are three good reasons to just find a quiet space, get your butt on the cushion, let your mind get itself in order, gather the data, and start building the skills to be a happy human being. I didn't get too far with that, didn't it? Okay, this time we're actually recording. We're gonna come around and check. Camera, don't you try to fool me. You're recording. Okay. Trust you. Get out of hand. Don't record when I think I'm recording. Yeah. I've got my thing here that tells me what to say. Ish.